have a guest for you today. I'm telling you what, this is the day when you are going to be ready. If you've never been ready before to step into a change, this is your day. We're welcoming you back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. I'm Mary Crafts, and my guest today is Michal Tolk, and you are going to love this ball of wisdom at age 28 that has just stepped into her own life and her own self and is inviting us into the same space of mindfulness. So Michal, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mary. It's great to be here with you.
Well, you are just an incredible young woman. Because to me, at my age, even though you're 28, you are a young woman.
Mm.
And your mom and I are good friends.
Mm-hmm.
President Astrid Taminas of Utah Valley University. And
Mm-hmm.
she reached out to me and she said, "So what do you think about having Michal on your podcast?" And I went, "Well, gee, uh, what would she talk about?" She said, "Well, why don't you talk to her and then tell me if you think she's got something to say?" We had the best talk.
Mm-hmm.
We did a Zoom call that, probably lasted over an hour just because we really wanted to know more about each other.
Mm.
So let's start with, Michal, I think always my listeners want to know about you, who you are, and
Mm-hmm.
what brought you to this point of
Mm.
mindfulness.
Mm. Yeah, great question. I mean, yeah, first off, I'm just feeling really grateful for my mom, and she's such a big cheerleader for everyone and for me, and that's very special. I'm glad she connected us. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think I was always drawn to silence and space and contemplation. I grew up in New York City, in Hong Kong, and Singapore, and these are just like loud, busy cities. So there's always a lot happening around me. And I think my very first exposure really to any sort of mindfulness, I actually went to Kung Fu classes with my mom when I was quite small. And I think that was the first memory I have of any sort of meditation. And I remember doing these visualizations and just feeling really at home, feeling like, oh, this kind of slowing down and visualizing and being with my body and my breath, this feels good. And I wanted to do more of that. And, like so many people do, I struggled a lot as a teenager with anxiety, with body issues, with my family. And it was really yoga and mindfulness that helped me get through that, was just, even starting on YouTube, doing practices of breathing, of moving and listening to my body. And that was revolutionary, of just beginning on that journey.
I think
Mm.
about those big cities that you grew up in
Mm-hmm.
and the busyness of them, and you really have to be very purposeful to find those places where you can retreat in, listen, be aware.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up just the opposite. I grew up in
Uh-huh.
Iowa, a small town of 250 people, was born and
Wow.
raised there. And I can remember having days after summers of just laying in the grass, under the
Mm-hmm.
trees, staring up, seeing the sunlight filter through the trees, and dream about, I can't wait till I get out of here to the big city.
Yeah.
It is always that there's something outside of where you are. But in coming full circle, I have come back and realized that the gifts I had as a child were so valuable to me to be able to
Mm-hmm.
spend time to simply daydream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you went through those high school years and were looking forward as to what's next for Michal, I
Mm.
remember when we interviewed your mom for the position of president at UVU, and she was talking about her children. And the thing she said about you was, Michael's my oldest, she'll probably be a doctor. And then she went on. And so you had a kind of, very scholastic, scholarly family. Both of your parents
Hmm.
are well educated, worked in the professional world, I mean, like at the top of their fields,
Hmm.
and now find themselves in education as their spot to give back. But I would have to say, there were probably some high expectations on who Michal was going to be.
Oh yeah.
How did you deal?
There was
How did you deal with that?
yeah, there was definitely a lot of pressure, I think, from my parents being so intelligent. I think from, there's the stereotype of like the Asian tiger mom, and that's definitely a thing. You have to get good grades, you have to achieve, you have to change the world. And I definitely resented that for a while, as teenagers are wont to do. So, I got into an Ivy League university. I got into Columbia and I was there for a semester and I dropped out and for a
You
multitude of
left Columbia.
I left
Okay.
Columbia.
All right. We're going to go with that. I'm sure your mom and dad were just like,
That was a hard time for them. I gave them a lot of grief and part of that for me at the time was I was leaving the Mormon church. I let them know and that was a big rift. And it's funny about like you growing up in the countryside. I left Columbia. The big reason for it was I wanted to go be a farmer. I wanted to go learn how to farm and homestead. And just like you said, it's like I think whatever we grow up with, we kind of yearn for the opposite, just to expand our experience. And so that was really big for me. I went to China and Thailand and the Philippines and India, and I worked on these homesteads and small farms. And I'd never really had my hands in the dirt like that before. I'd never, learned how to build things, how to grow food, how to be with animals. And I got a lot of time just sitting by the water and the trees and being with the sky and really, really learning how to slow down.
wow. Yeah.
Mm.
That is so interesting because that was my life in Iowa. My
Mm.
parents were not farmers.
Hmm.
My parents were provided all the things for the farmers, but all of my aunts and uncles were farmers. I
Wow.
spent so much time on their farms and
Mm.
raising chickens and milking cows and harvesting, tomatoes and cooking, canning, clean, oh my gosh. And
Uh-huh.
now you're like, I just want to put my hands in the soil.
Uh-huh.
I love that.
Yeah. And my mom, she's from the Philippines and a lot of her relatives are still subsistence farmers in the Philippines and have been. And they just thought it was hilarious that like I'm this, privileged city girl. Why does she want to go do hard work
Yeah,
under the sun?
yeah.
What is she doing? And but I needed it. I needed to really learn how to feel that satisfaction of being with my body and the kind of the work it takes to physically survive as humans in the world. Um, and that, yeah, speaking of mindfulness, like that was the time too. I think when I was 18, that was my first meditation retreat. I did a 10-day, like silent, 10 hours a day meditation retreat in the Philippines, and that really opened me up to realizing how much richness there was to explore just in the experience of my own breath and the experience of my own body. And I started to learn that I could find that anywhere.
I love
Mm.
that because
Mm.
it probably took me until I was 65 before I
Mm.
really got in touch with what that meant to
Mm.
breathe and to be in touch with your breath and the
Mm.
life force that is and
Mhm.
the ability it has to elevate our consciousness. I
Mm.
just thought it was something we were supposed to do to keep our bodies alive. I
Right.
didn't really understand that it's the breath of life that illuminates our mind
Mm.
and heals our hearts.
Mhm.
Wow. So, how did you come to this? Well, now tell our listeners about
Mhm.
what you do now
Mhm.
and where you've decided is your role in life. It wasn't at Columbia,
Mm-mm.
and it probably was not to continue on farming in the Philippines. So what now? What do you do now?
Yeah, I definitely I had some clear moments. I worked some like full-time farm apprenticeships, and I had a pretty clear moment of realizing like, wow, I love being out here, and I really have a gift for working with people, and I'm kind of wasting it by being alone with the dirt all day. Like it's good for me, but I have something to share with people that's really important for me to share. And so I started on a path of exploring the healing arts, the spiritual healing arts. I studied yoga, personal training. I studied hypnosis, somatic experiencing, which is somatic trauma healing modality. And right now I'm combining all of that into, it's a kind of coaching. It is trauma healing, but it does feel like spiritual work of working with other people to help us remember who we are, to help us remember how to open our hearts, to feel just more whole and at peace, and to be able to bring more love into the world.
That's what I do now.
Yeah.
but I'm but I'm like I waited so
Same.
long till after my career, till after my children were raised to step into my true purpose in life. It
Mm-hmm.
takes a tremendous amount of courage and letting go of fear, Michael, to
Mm,
step into that in your 20s, to
mm.
let go of, what we call the American dream,
Yeah.
of education, of
Mm-hmm.
career success, of financial growth and wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one thing to step into it where I am now.
Mm,
It's a whole different thing of courage to step into it at a young age.
mm.
Do you sense that?
Yeah, I think, I do
Or
feel
am I just making that up?
no, there's definitely it's scary stepping out into the unknown and kind of, seeing classmates and other people kind of follow the path that was, what you're supposed to do and stepping out into the unknown. One thing I have really realized is, I do appreciate my own courage, and also I am exceptionally privileged that my parents and my grandparents really worked hard to kind of reach the American dream and to build abundance and to build stability. And in a way, like they've given me the gift of being able to focus on healing and on the spiritual work and in my soul path because I got to grow up with that sense of security, and I didn't have to be afraid of starvation or violence or all these other things that other people just have to worry about. So I definitely feel myself carried by my family, and I'm only able to do what I am because of them.
Yeah. And that's a wonderful gift that they have given you, and you acknowledge it as such.
Hmm.
I think that gratitude has allowed you to accept it
Hmm.
and then to make the decision of what you're going to do with it. So
Right.
now you live in Asheville, North Carolina, one of my favorite places in the world. First of all, it's a food mecca.
Oh yeah.
I mean, people go there just to eat in Asheville. I don't know if people know that, but it's like
It's true.
incredible. And it's so beautiful. You're right in the middle of the Blue Ridge Smoky Mountains in North Carolina.
Hmm.
And the whole community is centered around mindfulness.
Hmm.
And it gives you a place to really step into this place you want to be. Tell me about living in Asheville and how that's been.
Oh man. I love it here. I've been in this area for 5 years now, and I never really thought I would find a place that feels like home. But these mountains, it feels like they really hold me. There's something, these are old, old mountains. They're some of the oldest mountains in the world. It's technically a rainforest, so we're surrounded just by like lush life and water and these beautiful mountains, and it draws in very special people. They're people are really focused on healing. There are a lot of healing practitioners here. People come here to learn. I came here to study yoga. That was what first brought me here. And then,
Really
yeah, uh-huh.
interesting. Okay.
Um, and the community here is amazing. I was even just thinking about this, like, yesterday I spent time with some friends who are in the same somatic experiencing training cohort with me, and we spent a couple hours together, like basically just practicing mindfulness together and checking in with each other and sharing presence. And then I went to like a birthday party and everyone was singing, like we were singing prayers together and like celebrating. And I feel that there's this like joyful vibrancy of people here who are really working towards their own like authentic unfolding. And it's really special.
Yeah. It is interesting when you can have a whole community like that. John and I just had a gathering this last Saturday
Hmm.
we were married in Ireland 2 months ago.
Hmm.
And so none of our close community of friends were there, just our family.
Hmm.
And so we had this celebration in my dear friend's backyard. And
Hmm.
that's how it felt. There were 40 people gathered with the same intent to celebrate not just John and I, but the connection of love that is between us, all of us, not
Hmm.
just John and I, but between every single person that was there. And
Hmm.
it, many people commented on that magical nature when they stepped into that space. There was this sense of being embraced and
Yes.
part of a whole.
Hmm.
That thing that I search for, the oneness. It When you have a community around you like that. Now you're
Hmm.
fortunate to live in Asheville, but no
Hmm.
matter where people are, they can create that kind of community. Wouldn't you think, Michael?
Absolutely. I think, yeah, like that is everywhere. And what I find, I see this in myself and I see this with my clients too, is kind of the more that we step into our own authenticity and the more we kind of radiate love to other people, the more we just draw in that community. And that absolutely can happen anywhere.
So right now then tell us, what would you describe as I know you don't want to use this word, job description. But
Uh-huh.
tell us how you spend your days lifting others.
Hmm.
Let's put it that way.
Hmm. Yeah. Gosh, I feel like my work, the more I do it, the more it's a mystery to me and the more it really humbles me. Um, so I keep losing all the clear ways to describe it. So like the heart of it, is I mostly work one-on-one with people in person and on Zoom and
Because in
my
Nashville, you a lot of your clients you do across Zoom, right? I mean, you work with people
Mhm.
around the globe. Yeah,
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, and I've had some clients out in Utah, so we work on
yeah.
Zoom and that's been great. And usually people come to me because they have something they want to change. They have habits they want to change, or they feel like they're having a hard time being present with their life. They're being having a hard time being present with their relationships. They might be struggling with pain or chronic stress. That's pretty big. And so I help people to shift those patterns. And there's usually a lot of healing that we do together. And often there will be some unconscious exploration. We might use hypnosis or somatic experiencing. I don't know if
Yeah,
people
but
are familiar with
yeah,
that.
let's explain that so that the listeners can understand that.
Yeah, so somatic experiencing, it's a trauma healing modality that's really based on the idea that our bodies know how to release trauma, that the deeper levels of our nervous system are intelligent and wise and can release trauma, and that we just basically need to be mindful and slow and present and create a container of safety, and then that release can happen. So I do a lot of teaching people some skills for nervous system regulation and for reminding ourselves that you're safe. And even though something bad happened to you in the past, something painful happened right now in this moment, and also in relationship with me, the practitioner, like you're safe, I'm reliable, you're reliable. And then we kind of, what I love about somatic experiencing is it's gentle, because I find some trauma healing modalities can be very like looking for a big release and a big dramatic experience, and then people can have trouble integrating it, and it can actually be destabilizing. So the way I approach trauma work is very gentle, very just drop by drop, and I find that it helps people really experience sustainable change over time.
Do you, this thing about change that people want to change and they reach out
Hmm.
to you because they feel the draw, the need to change. How
Hmm.
does someone know if they're ready to
Mm.
change? Because there's a difference between wanting to change and being ready to change. So, how do they identify that?
Yeah, that's a big one because it's interesting too. Like I talk to people sometimes who really want to change, and it's almost like too soon for them, and I kind of have to um, trust them in their timing that they'll reach out for help when it's the right time. Um, but usually when it's the time to change, there's like this. It's hard to describe, but people just know. Like I'll have people tell me like they've been holding on to my card or looking at my website for months and months, and then finally like something just they had enough. It was like now is the time. And sometimes something will happen where people really tune into like the urgency of life. And very often it's when people are going through a transition, like people are planning to have a child, they just retired, they di there you go. Yeah. Yeah, those have been some of my favorite clients are the folks who have just retired, and there's still so much life ahead of you, and now you really have the time to create the life that you want. So I trust people and trust their timing, that people know. There's like a deep heart gut knowing that people know.
So, and you, so you do this really just online. They don't have to live in Asheville, North Carolina, or Charlotte, North Carolina. They can do this anywhere. Just
Hmm.
so that my listeners will know, we have included at the end of this podcast the link
Hmm.
to your website and also to your
Hmm.
Instagram.
Hmm.
And when I went on your website, I remember just thinking that very word, peace. There
Mm.
is peace here.
Hmm.
And that even just talking with you,
Mm.
I think about how it's just, I mean, just look at you. Here you are, just as you are. You know, your long hair just pushed back, no makeup, cotton shirt, then this walls that look like you're just in some adobe hut somewhere. You know what I mean? Just there's you're not caught up in what most 28-year-olds would think is
Mm.
the reason I'm here. And you have gone on a journey now of over 10 years of
Mm.
stepping into your own mindfulness and
Hmm.
now able to offer that gift to others. I
Hmm.
think that's really an incredible thing. Um, so, what specific things would you say that you find are necessary as people step into this change? What do you have them focus on?
Hmm. Yeah. So the big theme, the overarching theme is always love. It's always how can I love this present experience? How can I love myself, my body, my breath? And love can be a tricky word because we ascribe so much to it, but I think of love as a practice of awareness and acceptance and compassion. So when people are coming to me from a very dysregulated space, sometimes it might start off with, can we just love like the present moment, like the room you're in? Can you see the colors around you? Can you feel the chair underneath you? Can you feel the support of the earth? And can you really know that you're safe? And we really start off focusing on that there is actually this love all around you supporting you. Can you relax into that safety? And then we can start to kind of do the more internal work of, if you notice that there's pain or there's anxiety, can we get really curious about that part of you? Extend gratitude and compassion to that part of you, and and then kind of allow the transformation to happen. So there's a lot of, yeah, building trust, building safety, and then expanding the circle, the embrace of our love. How much can we hold? How much can we love? And that can be really hard because people have been through some hard things. People have experienced abuse and war and um, even just being a human in a family in this society. So it's quite a brave task that people take on with me of accepting all of that and loving all of that and trusting that actually when we stop trying to change things, that's when they change.
Ah, ah, I love that. Let me just say that again. So when we stop trying to make things change, that's when they change.
Yeah.
Is that how you said that? Did I say that
Yeah.
right?
That
Yeah.
sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of the acceptance of where you are now.
Hmm.
And I think that's one of the very first steps is accepting where you are now. So many people, at least the listeners on my show,
Hmm.
they either have had and they're aware of some huge trauma in their life,
Hmm. Hmm.
or they're I haven't ever really had any big trauma in my life. I still though know there's more.
Hmm.
And so the person who just knows that there is more,
Hmm.
where do they start?
Yeah. Oh, so I've been thinking about this idea a lot over the past year of like longing, that there's kind of this universal experience we have of longing, of kind of knowing there's something more, and there's that just that sense of it. So with that, it's, really really slowing down and actually getting curious about that experience of longing. Like, what is it pulling you towards? And this is kind of where there's the work of healing, and then once we get beyond that, now we can really get into like expansion and growth, like there's something more. And that's where the most important question one of the most important question becomes, what do you want? And it's so interesting, people can have such a hard time answering that question, like, what do
Isn't
you
that
want?
amazing?
Yeah.
I did a small group the other night, and it was simply on Deepak Chakra's seventh laws, spiritual laws, and we only
Mm.
focused on one, which was the law of desire and intention.
Mm-hmm.
And I really had the women try and think about what did they desire more
Mm.
than anything else in this life.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat with that question for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards, there were those who were pretty clear about,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I desire this. This is what I desire more than above anything else in my life. Da, 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 da. And then there were
Mm-hmm.
those who were like, I have no idea. I literally have no idea what I desire more than anything else. Or
Mm-hmm.
there were those who were like, I can't narrow it down. I desire like 12 things. I'm like, okay. So, how do you think people focus in on discovering what they want, what they
Yeah.
desire more than anything else? What are the steps to that?
Yeah. So there's a lot of clearing things out that has to happen because, gosh, like, if there's so many messages telling us what we should want. There are massive industries designed to tell us you should want these clothes or this house or this car. And then even beyond that, and I find especially for women, we've been socialized very often to only be thinking about what do other people want, and I think it comes from a history of just women being kind of vulnerable and really needing to depend on other people just to survive and be alive in the world. So we really have been socialized in that way of what do other people want. And so it just takes, again, like curiosity of discerning that, is this what I want? Where is this coming from? And that's where I find that the embodiment becomes so important, because a lot of the external stuff can be very heady. Like, I should want this. I should want this. They probably want me to want this. And we live in a culture that is very much like from the neck up. We're just living in this headspace. So, and people, and I find that it can be useful to think of, there's also your heart brain, there's your gut brain, there's even like your womb brain, if you have a womb. Your whole body has this network of intelligence. And so I can kind of help people tune in and listen to, where's that full body yes coming from? What is that? What is my body actually leaning in towards? And what is a no, not just mentally, but in my whole body? And there's a lot of clarity that can come from that listening and dropping into the body.
So these techniques that you use, like you mentioned, hypnosis,
Hmm.
somatic healing,
Hmm.
clearing, meditation, yoga,
Hmm.
they can be used to really change anything. And it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can be like,
Hmm.
well, I want to change how I'm connecting with other people. I
Hmm.
want deeper connections. It's not that you don't
Hmm.
have connections, you just want deeper ones, more meaningful ones. And
Yeah.
so it doesn't have to be, I want to heal from my childhood sexual abuse. It can
Hmm.
be something that you know there's something more. Whenever
Hmm.
someone knows and has that longing that you talked about, that is such a great word, longing, that there's
Hmm.
something more.
Hmm.
That's when people like you are of such value to be
Hmm.
able to step in and help people across that bridge. I
Yes.
love that.
Yes.
All right, Michael. I could talk to you forever. I would do that when I come out to see you in July, okay?
Yes.
But
Absolutely.
so what would be your final words to the listeners about what is possible for them in the
Mm.
pathway to
Hmm.
mindfulness?
Hmm.
What's the gift that you would give them?
Hmm. Phew. Yeah. I would say I'm always wanting people to know that you can trust your longing. You can trust that, not like that feeling you have, that there is a deeper peace available. There is a deeper joy available. And that, part of the pathway to that I think often gets overlooked is that safety comes first, and then we can expand from there. And to really be gentle with ourselves, to give ourselves an environment of safety, to remind ourselves of safety, to have positive connections, and to really trust that, well, we can trust ourselves. We can trust ourselves to grow from there. And that there
I
there
love
is like
that.
this big, yeah, there's this big love like waiting to catch us.
Yeah. And that is the very first step. It has
Hmm.
to be to find that place of safety where we can shift, where we can
Hmm.
first accept
Hmm.
and then shift to what's out there for us, waiting for us. I think we
Hmm.
all, even those of us who have worked in this field, even you,
Hmm.
know that there are more things, more expansion out there ready and available for us.
Oh yeah.
And when you see something in someone and you recognize it and you think, I would like, I wish, I don't want people to say, I wish I could be. No, I don't want that.
Mm.
But I would love it when people say, I want more of,
Hmm.
and they acknowledge that they already have it. I want more of love. I want more of what this person is exuding to the world.
Mm.
And then it gives them a place to step into
Hmm.
and a reason for the shift and the change. Not so that we can be like everyone else,
Hmm.
but so that we can be more like who we are. I want to tell
Right.
you something that happened to me this morning.
Yes.
This is how I'm going to end, okay? Um, I was thinking about you,
Mm.
and I had been on your website again today, and I was looking at your social media and reading through some of the thoughts that you had left there.
Mm.
And I just put on my meditation music while I was getting ready.
Mm.
And I was just listening, and I really went inside this morning, Michelle, and thought,
Mm.
what does that look like for me today? to just for today, to step into mindfulness. Not just going through my usual Monday things. Got my podcast, then I have lunch with Wendy, then John has his softball game tonight. That's just doing the rote calendar stuff.
Mm.
But what if I did each one of those, being mindful of what I was creating and what I was waking behind me, the wake of the boat behind me, and be aware of that. So just before I came on with you, I went downstairs and found John, and I said, John, I just want you to know that today I want to be very mindful of you and creating wonderful things in our life, not just taking what comes and saying, oh, that was great, that was fun, but what I want to create and then setting about doing that. You live in such a peaceful state. I felt that when I talked to you before. Every time I've ever met you, you inspire me to be more mindful. You inspire me to be more genuine. You inspire me to be more loving. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Just hold that. I think when I was your age, I had just graduated from college and had no idea what was happening in my life. I had graduated from BYU without being married, which was a complete no-no back then in the
Oh
70s.
yeah.
You were a total loser if you weren't married by the time you graduated from BYU. And I just sucked all of that inside of me of not being enough and unworthy and just finally just took the first thing that came along because I would never get anything else. And the years of working through that and stepping out of that, I'm so grateful that I've had a long life so I can do that. And I'm grateful for young women like you that are doing it now and showing the world what is possible, that you don't have to stay with the status quo. All right, everyone, check out the website because you offer a complimentary first session.
I do, yeah. I offer a free kind of a compatibility call to see if we're a good fit
Yeah.
to work together.
And I think that's incredible because sometimes you need that to step in and figure out, is this a good fit for me or not? So I
Absolutely.
encourage all of my listeners to take advantage of that and to reach out. And maybe we'll see each other in Asheville this year.
I would absolutely love that.
Okay, I'm going to text you the dates that I'm going to be there so we can figure out something.
Awesome. Cool.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen. And now you can be about the rest of your day being mindful of the life that you are crafting today. Namaste.
Crafting a meaningful life.